You and I both are novelists by trade. Like we both love writing the big books, like, and the concept of being a novelist. And I think when we both started, we both were working on big books, and then kind of gradually, so like when I did the magazine, I really started focusing on short stories, because honestly, you can't publish giant novels in a magazine at once. It's just, you can do chapters, but then that's a whole other thing that we'll talk about some other time. But specifically short stories, I think, I've personally have come to believe that they make you a better writer. Because number one, they teach you to finish. Because with a big novel, it's just this long, arduous journey over valleys and through forests and over fences. With a short story, you're in a backyard, and you can kind of like mow the lawn, water the grass, and it's more manageable, and you get better at your craft. So then maybe later on the novel comes. For you, what would you think? Is there a difference with writing a novel to writing a short story for you? And what's that like?
Yeah, I definitely agree that short stories really help you own your craft, and really kind of help you to see a story from start to finish. The way that you can get lost kind of in a novel where you're not really able to see kind of the whole picture. I wrote my first short stories, back in middle school, junior high, and then didn't write for a while, kind of wrote poetry on and off. And then when I decided to turn back to writing, was like, okay, I'm going to write a novel. Trudged through that, finished that manuscript, and then when I decided to go back for my MFA, mostly focused on short stories, kind of at the encouragement of the professors, who, you were allowed to present novel excerpts if you wanted for a workshop, but I just found it much more helpful for critique and for just the learning process to present a full story start to finish, because if you're workshopping the chapter 5 of a novel that nobody has read anything before or after it, sometimes the feedback isn't very helpful, because they're like, well, I didn't understand this, It's like, well, that was explained in the part you didn't read. So it's not always the most helpful. So I definitely recommend for workshop purposes to go in, unless it's a group that you've been workshopping with every week for a long time, who have, kind of read other parts of the novel. But for me, I did maybe my first 3 semesters in my MFA just working on short stories. And then once I was like, okay, I feel like I have this form down. I feel like I learned so much in that program. It's just real obvious things that I would have never thought of, because I had never studied writing from anyone. I had just always done it alone in my room. And so at that point I was like, okay, I have the beginning of a novel. I'm going to dedicate the last couple of semesters to working on a novel, because I feel like I've got a good batch of short stories. I've really learned a lot from working in that shorter form. And now I'm ready to take all of those things that I've learned to a bigger work. So yeah, it's so different for everybody. Some people have never written a short story, but can sit down and write a novel, or some people just write short stories. So for me, it even made me see, like, working on stories from beginning to end and workshopping them and editing them, I could then look back at that older novel manuscript and see, oh, these are all the reasons that doesn't work. Is because I didn't know what I was doing. It doesn't mean it was all bad, but it's like, these are all the things that I could fix.
I call it common sense realized.
Where
it is common sense, but creating a world, fictional, fantasy, sci-fi, it doesn't matter. You are creating something from your imagination with words, and that takes a lot of energy. And every now and then you, like I said, you get lost in the sauce, lost in the word soup, as it were, and the little things like, oh yeah, that would have made more sense. And all it takes is one person outside of yourself, and that's where you say going to these groups. Community is one of the most important things that a writer needs. It's important to go off on your own, finish the work, but we need people to, number one, read it, because that's kind of the whole point, and two, though, to actually ask us the questions of, like you said, why? Because if they don't ask us why, then everything in our own head is already makes sense, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense to everyone else. That's the point of communicating. And I think that specifically with getting a group of people or going to take classes, that is a very important part of a journey, because you do need to be critiqued. As hard and as scary as it can be, it leads to this. Most of the time. Hopefully. Yeah, you'll get there. Trust us.